Hello and welcome to today's Saturday session. Today's lesson will be a common exam question breakdown on topic 2 and topic 6, focusing on nutrition and energy systems. So in topic 2.8, students learn about diet and nutrition. And learning outcomes include examining the nutritional considerations for before, during, and after performance in physical activity, discussing the importance of hydration in different physical activities and settings, discussing the role and challenges of using sports supplements, including sports drinks, in physical activity, analysing the role and relative contribution of the energy systems in relation to duration, intensity, and type of activity, explaining how an understanding of the different energy systems can inform preparation for practice, performance, and recovery, and designing a dietary plan including a rationale for one selected physical activity. Students also learn about the best practice for the use of supplements and investigate the uses of dietary supplements designed to optimize performance in one of their selected physical activities. So these will be the learning outcomes that we will be examining in the lesson today, and we'll be examining questions from the Leaving Cert higher level papers from 2020 to 2023 that address these learning outcomes. So as you can see, here are the questions. So again, quite a popular topic. 3 questions in 2020, 3 questions in 2021, 2 questions in 2022, and 3 questions in 2023. So you can see the highlighted ones in bold there in 2022, question 6, and 2023, question 10. They were essentially the same question. So it was essentially a repeat question 1 year after the other. So important to note that. It's quite a popular choice of question. So our first question is related to dehydration. So dehydration can have a negative effect on a long distance runner's performance. We are asked to discuss the importance of hydration in this specific example. So to discuss means to offer a considered, balanced review that includes a range of factors, and all of these conclusions that we draw from our review are supported by appropriate evidence. So as we can see, that considered balanced review with the factors is in purple text, and the opinions or conclusions supported with evidence is in green text. So we start off, so hydration refers to having enough water to enable a normal functioning of the body. So we're looking at the explanation or the definition of hydration, which is one of the factors in our answer. Hydration is important for long distance running, so that's a factor in our discussion. And now we're going to add some evidence to it. So it results in fluid loss as body temperature increases. So as we exercise, we get warmer and the body starts to sweat to counteract this. The sweat will cool us down and return us to a normal body temperature, prevent us from overheating. Sweating then, but the consequence of this is that sweating causes the loss of water and also salts from the skin. So again, we have evidence there backing up why hydration is important. Hydration is important for long distance runners as water regulates body temperature and lubricates joints and helps transport nutrients. So again, we're stating why hydration is important for a long distance runner, and we're given specific reasons and evidence why. Again, another example, so dehydration. So water loss in excess of 2 to 3% of body mass. So again, if we were 100 kg and we lost 3 kg while we were exercising, that would be 3% of body mass and we would be classified as dehydrated. So it can cause fatigue and reduce aerobic capacity and cognitive function, which are important for long distance runners who rely on the aerobic system for energy and who need to concentrate on pacing and effort during races and training. So they are the factors that are impacted by dehydration, and we have the evidence of the 2 to 3% of body mass as well included in that bullet point. So again, the aerobic energy system provides the energy for long distance runners because long distance running is long in duration and lower in intensity. So it's the aerobic energy which provides most of the energy for this event. And also, if we get dehydrated, we lose concentration and we forget about being able to pace. So the last bullet point we have is on dehydration results in increased heart rate and body temperature, because when the plasma volume in our blood reduces, the cardiovascular system has to work faster to move the oxygen and nutrients around to the muscles. So then on to a few more bullet points on this page, this next page. So now we're referring to the hydration before, rehydration after, and hydration during exercise. So pre-hydration, hydration during, and then rehydration. So it's important for long distance runners to consume more water before training events and then during. So we're looking at 400 to 800 ml of water per hour of running to maintain euhydration. So again, we're having the evidence of the euhydration and the factor of 400 to 800 ml per hour of running to maintain that. Other factors include the clothing, the temperature of the environment, the body mass, and duration and the intensity of exercise. So again, if you're wearing more clothing, you sweat more, need more water to hydrate. The temperature, if the temperature is increased, we'll sweat more, we'll need more water to hydrate. Increased body mass, meaning we'll sweat more, we'll need more water in order to maintain hydration. And exercise with a higher intensity or longer duration will also result in more sweat loss, which we will need to take into account when we are trying to hydrate or rehydrate. And then we're looking at, so we've looked at hydration before, which is to fuel up and make sure you're consuming more water before. 400 to 800 ml per hour of activity during, and then afterwards, the runner should rehydrate with 1.5 litres for every kg of body mass lost. So if we take our 100 kg runner, and if they lose 1 kg of body mass, if they weigh themselves before and after exercise, they would have to rehydrate with 1.5 litres for every kg that they lost, which would be 1. And then the last factor is if running duration exceeds 1 hour, then sports drinks should be used to hydrate and provide energy, as carbohydrates and electrolytes must be consumed to maintain blood glucose and sodium levels. So again, that's important for long distance runners, as running durations often exceed 1 hour for endurance athletes. So again, including carbohydrates and electrolytes in energy or in their fluid intake is important to keep the blood glucose and sodium levels up. And again, we're getting our evidence in there, so as to why we're taking in our carbohydrates and electrolytes, and we have our factor of, so we're factoring in taking in sports drinks after an hour as well. So summary. So we have our hydration definition and the importance for the long distance runner, dehydration, the definition and the consequences of dehydration. So loss of concentration, cognitive function, and lower aerobic performance. So our pre-hydration, our hydration, and our rehydration, how much for each. So we have all of those, and then the hydration after 1 hour of exercise is important in this instance because it's a long distance runner and that's going to go over 1 hour. If it was less than an hour, that would not be applicable to this situation. The next question is about chocolate milk after training, which is a good recovery strategy. So this is just asking us what benefits may this provide over water alone. So again, they're looking for us to explain what the benefits may be. So we're comparing chocolate milk to water. So chocolate milk contains more vitamins and minerals than water, and these can replace those lost during sweating. Chocolate milk enhances rehydration more than water, as it contains more sodium than water. So again, we are giving an explanation as to the benefits of chocolate milk over water and giving the reasons why as well. So we have the benefits in blue and the reasons in red. Chocolate milk contains more potassium and calcium than water, which assists in muscle function and bone health. Again, the reasons why. Chocolate milk has high quality carbohydrate and protein, which will help with muscle repair and replenishment of blood glucose. So again, our protein and our carbs helping to repair and to replenish the blood glucose. And water does not have high levels of carbohydrate or protein. So our next question is related to energy systems. So we're asked to select an event from the heptathlon that uses an energy system and explain why this event gets most of their energy from this energy system. So we have the anaerobic lactic acid energy system, and the event from the heptathlon that has been selected is the shot put. And our explanations were given detail as much as we can, and also the reasons why. So the shot put uses this energy system, as the shot put involves maximal efforts for very short durations with long recovery durations, which is an example of the anaerobic lactic acid or the ATP PCR energy system. So again, we're given a bit more detail at the end. So the use of a phosphate from phosphocreatine provides that energy. So again, when ATP breaks down to form ADP, phosphocreatine donates a phosphate to join up with the ADP to form ATP, and this provides additional energy. And this is for activities that have really high efforts, short durations, and long recovery durations, which is what the shot put is. So the shot put, there is a throw that takes a very low number of seconds, and it's very high intensity effort, but there's long recoveries between each throw. So again, the anaerobic lactic acid energy system provides energy for the shot put. For the anaerobic lactic or the anaerobic glycolytic energy system, the event selected is 200 meters. So the 200-meter sprint primarily uses this system as the event involves very high to maximal efforts over moderate durations. So again, over 20 seconds. Typically, I know the world record set by Usain Bolt is 19 point something seconds. And it has long recovery durations in between. So again, 200-meter races, typically they won't usually be on the same day. So again, there'll be long recoveries between. So the breakdown of glycogen is the main provider of energy for this event, and this is given a bit more detail. The 800 meters is selected as our aerobic event, so it was the most aerobic of the events in the heptathlon. So if you want to Google heptathlon events and have a look and see which ones that you would select yourself, the 800 meters was the most aerobic choice in all of the events. So the 800 meter primarily used the aerobic energy system as the event involves moderate efforts. So there'll be high intensity, but there'll be more moderate than, say, the shot put, which is really high intensity, over longer durations greater than 90 seconds. So again, the anaerobic glycolytic energy system, which is the one we just did a second ago, provides energy for up to about 90 seconds. After that, the aerobic energy system will be the main contributor. And this will involve a deeper breathing rate producing oxygen, which will supply the active muscles. So again, we've got our detail there and our reasons as to why the 800 meters is mainly aerobic. So there's moderate efforts over longer durations greater than 90 seconds. So our next question is related to energy systems and the phases of the rowing race. So as we can see here, we have the start phase for the first 500 meters, where high efforts to get out in front. So in rowing, If you are first in rowing, you have the advantage because you're able to see all of the competitors as they'll be in front of you, because when you're rowing, as you can see in the image here, you're rowing backwards, and then you can adjust your pacing as needs be, versus if someone is behind you in rowing, you'll have to be looking behind you and it won't be as easy to regulate pace. So a little interesting fact. The distance phase or maintenance phase is the mainly aerobic element of rowing. So that's about from 500 to 1700 meters. So again, a long distance there. And then the sprint finish is again a maximal effort to finish off the race. So the case study had named the 3 phases of a 2000 meter rowing race. So don't be too worried. They had named that in the case study, so that was there. That information was there for you. So the main thing that we had to do was find that in the case study and then explain the contribution of the energy systems during each phase. So explain again means giving detail with reasons or causes. So we have detail in blue and the reasons in red. So phase 1 is the sprint start. So again, the first 500 meters, as we saw in the image previously. So the sprint start in rowing primarily uses the anaerobic lactic energy system, so the anaerobic glycolytic, as this phase involves high intensity efforts over longer durations between 10 and 90 seconds. So again, the world record for 500 meters in rowing is just over 1 minute and 30 seconds. That's on a erg, so an indoor rower. So again, the sprint phase at the start will probably between 10 and 90 seconds, and then the aerobic system will probably kick in and be the main contributor after that. So again, we're given a bit more detail on the anaerobic glycolytic energy system. So we have the breakdown of glycogen being the main provider of energy, or ATP. So ATP is broken down to provide energy without oxygen, so that's anaerobic, so it's without oxygen. And lactic acid is produced, and lactic acid is used as an energy source during high intensity exercise. Muscle cramps and soreness can then occur due to the production of hydrogen ions, so and can limit the energy provided by this energy system. So the hydrogen ions can result in muscle cramps and soreness and reduce the amount of time that we can use this moderate to high intensity energy. And this moderate to high amount of energy for short to moderate durations for this part of the race. So again, everyone at the start of this race is trying very hard to get out in front so that they can dictate the pace of the race. The maintenance phase is the main part of the rowing race, so it'll take up the longest duration and distance. The maintenance phase primarily uses the aerobic energy system. So because we have our reason in red, it involves low to moderate intensity efforts, so maintained paces over longer durations greater than 90 seconds. So again, elite level rowing at the Olympic level will be just over 6 minutes. So again, if you after the sprint phase up until the sprint finish, it'll definitely take longer than 90 seconds. So the aerobic energy system will be the main contributor. And this energy system involves a deeper breathing rate producing oxygen, which supplies the active muscles. So oxygen is supplying the muscles with energy. Stored glucose in the liver and the muscles is used during exercise, and the ATP is broken down to provide energy in the presence of oxygen. So it's aerobic, we're in the presence of oxygen this time. And this energy system provides a low to moderate amount of energy for long durations for this phase of the race. So again, ATP, so glucose is broken down, is used during exercise. ATP is broken down to provide energy, and CO2 and H2O are the waste products. Again, we breathe out the CO2 and we sweat out the H2O, we breathe in the oxygen. Our sprint finish is the last part of the race, and again, the same as the sprint start, the sprint finish uses the anaerobic lactic energy system, as this phase involves high intensity efforts over longer durations between 10 and 90 seconds. So again, the sprint finish will be different for each race, and it'll be dependent on when each rower decides to go for the sprint finish and try and max out their pace. There's a tactical element involved in that as well, but it'll typically be the last be from 1700 to 2000 meters, as we saw in the image previously. And again, it's the same explanation as given in phase 1 for the sprint start. So our next question. Endurance athletes need to carefully plan their nutrition for optimum performance. Explain how the effect of carbohydrates before and during an event can help endurance athletes optimize their performance. So explain means to give a detailed account, including the reasons or the causes. So again, we're looking for as much detail as we can here. So carbohydrate loading prior to an event can help an endurance athlete to optimize their performance. And then we're explaining what carbohydrate loading is for an endurance athlete. So for carbohydrate loading, the athletes in the 1 to 3 days before an event take in 8 to 12 grams of carbohydrate per day. And that's per kg of body weight. So again, if we have our 100 kg athlete, endurance athlete, we'll be looking at somewhere between 800 grams and 1200 grams, or 1.2 kg of carbohydrate. So it's quite a lot of carbohydrate to be consumed. The aim of this strategy is to increase the amount of glycogen that we're storing in the muscles, and we can use that glycogen for energy. Higher fat foods and proteins as well are often reduced to compensate for the higher carbohydrate intake, and the training is reduced during the carbohydrate load, and this is known as a taper. That's also to try and increase performance. Carbohydrate intake during an event can help an endurance athlete to optimize their performance. And then during the event, we're looking at 30 grams of carbohydrate per hour could be consumed for sessions lasting 1 to 2 hours to replenish the amount of glycogen stored in the muscles. And then lasting longer than 2 hours, we're consuming 60 grams of carbohydrate per hour and 90 grams if it's longer than 3 hours. And this carbohydrate can be consumed in a gel, liquid, or bar form, depending on what the person prefers themselves. But they must trial it beforehand, as it can lead to gastrointestinal distress. So again, we wouldn't want to be eating a big bowl of oats or pasta or potatoes, as this would lead to quite a bit of gastrointestinal distress. And it would feel like there's a lot of food in your stomach. So again, gel, liquid, or bar form generally are lighter on the stomach and are generally the preferred sources of carbohydrate during exercise. So this question is related to an image of Michael Jordan drinking a sports drink called Gatorade, and the question asks us to name 4 other supplements other than sports drinks that could supplement a basketball player's performance. So 4 supplements I've outlined I've chosen here are creatine, caffeine, protein, and beta-alanine. So again, what we need to do here is we need to answer the question, so we need to relate it to a basketball player's performance. So again, we're looking for a detailed account, including reasons or causes. So reasons in red, detailed account in blue. So creatine may enhance a basketball player's performance, and it does so by increasing the muscle strength, muscle power, and lean muscle mass during basketball and resistance training sessions, and may also increase speed. And does this by increasing the phosphocreatine stores in the muscles. So we're adding a bit more detail there at the end. So phosphocreatine stores in the muscle. The phosphocreatine donates phosphate to ADP, which in turn turns into ATP, and then can break down to provide more energy. Caffeine is the second supplement. So caffeine may enhance the basketball player's performance by increasing the focus and the energy and reducing the perceived effort and fatigue during training and matches. So again, we're given the reason as to why it might enhance performance, and adding a bit more detail at the end. It blocks adenosine receptors in the brain to reduce the perception of fatigue. So this adenosine, this hormone, increases throughout the day from when we wake until we sleep, and it increases feelings of tiredness or drowsiness. And what caffeine does, it blocks the adenosine receptors in the brain to reduce our perception of fatigue, so how tired we perceive ourselves or feel ourselves to be. So we have protein, another supplement that may enhance basketball players' performance by building or preserving and helping to repair muscle mass after training. And adding the extra detail, it increases muscle protein synthesis, which is there's more muscle protein synthesis in the muscle than there is breakdown. So again, the muscle protein breakdown would lead to muscle loss, muscle soreness. Muscle protein synthesis is leading to muscle gain and also muscle repair. And then our last supplement, we have beta-alanine. So beta-alanine may enhance basketball players' performance by increasing cardiorespiratory capacity and reducing muscle fatigue. So that's the reason as to why it might enhance performance. And then a bit more detail, it increases muscle carnosine stores, which reduce the acidity in the muscles during high intensity training or matches. So when we are training or playing in a match and we're using high intensity with lower recoveries, the anaerobic glycolytic energy system come into use. Lactic acid or lactate may be used as an energy source, and this may result in production of hydrogen ions, which increase acidity in the muscle, and the carnosine stores reduce that acidity. So again, help us to reduce that muscle fatigue. So our next question is explaining how two of the body's energy systems contribute to performance in a physical activity of your choice. So for this activity, I've chosen soccer. So again, I've highlighted this one with 2 stars. So again, soccer will have more than one energy system contributing to it. So again, if you take the example one example I had earlier of the shot put, so the primary contributor to energy in the shot put is the anaerobic lactic or the ATP PCR energy system. It would be a bit harder to argue the case that other energy systems contribute heavily to energy in that event. So I wouldn't choose an event that has one energy system providing most of the energy. I would try to choose an event that has multiple energy systems. As you can see here, 2 is highlighted in bold. So again, you want to choose an activity that you can talk about with relation to the energy systems. So again, the anaerobic lactic acid or the ATP PCR energy system contributes to energy in soccer during the short maximum effort bursts of activity from 6 to 10 seconds with long recoveries in between. So again, your sprints where there is lower intensity activities in between or just complete rest. So sprinting, jumping for the ball, tackling, and have to be high intensity kicks as well, or high force kicks. Again, giving a bit more detail to it. So ATP releases a phosphate and turns into ADP, and this process releases energy. Phosphocreatine or additional phosphocreatine gets this process up and running again by releasing a phosphate, joins ADP to become ATP, and the ATP can be used again to provide energy. And this process keeps repeating itself over and over again. So we can see as our phosphocreatine stores are depleted or reduce, this energy system won't be able to provide as much energy to the ATP breakdown process. So the aerobic energy system is another energy system that provides a large amount of energy to soccer. And it provides it during the low to moderate intensity activities lasting longer than 90 seconds to 3 minutes. So a lot of the movement in soccer is going to be at a lower intensity. And again, soccer matches can last from 90 to 120 minutes. So again, long durations and lower intensities, the aerobic energy system is going to provide a lot of the energy for that. And the high distances covered at low intensities is going to be supplied by the aerobic energy system. So again, adding some more detail, after 90 seconds of activity, the body begins to supply active muscles with oxygen. Oxygen allows the aerobic respiration to break down glucose for ATP, which provides energy. So again, we break down ATP and we get energy. So not as much energy as the other energy systems, but we still get energy. We get a consistent source of energy for a long period of time. We get water through sweating, so H2O, and we get CO2, which we breathe out. So we breathe in oxygen, which allows us to break down glucose for ATP and provide energy, and we sweat out water and we breathe out CO2. Our next question, it asks us to examine 3 nutritional considerations for designing a dietary plan for an athlete in the name physical activity. So examine means to consider a concept in the way it covers the interrelationships of the issue. So we need to consider how the different aspects relate to each other. We also need to apply it to the physical activity. So for this activity, I've chosen Olympic weightlifter. So for an Olympic weightlifter, protein intake is an important nutritional consideration. So we're considering the concept and we are applying the interrelationships. So again, protein is important for growth and repair of muscle tissue. So that's the relationship between protein and performance in weightlifting. So again, while we train, we break down our muscle tissues, and again, protein allows them to build them back up and hopefully have larger muscles that are able to produce more force over time. It is important for weightlifters to consume protein sources containing the full range of amino acids, such as animal protein sources named, and also plant sources. So again, the full range of essential amino acids are important to consume for a weightlifter to ensure that the weightlifters is achieving efficient levels of muscle protein synthesis. And weightlifting is a strength sport, so again we're giving it a bit more consideration to the concepts. So they'll need to consume 1.4 to 1.8 grams per kg of body weight per day to promote muscle growth or repair. So that's the relationship between how much protein to consume for performance in weightlifting. So our next nutritional consideration is nutrient timing. Again, that's just when we consume our nutrients and what nutrients are best to consume at certain times. So before exercise, weightlifters will need to fuel with carbohydrates, and the relationship between consuming carbohydrates and performance in weightlifting is to ensure they have enough energy to avoid gastrointestinal issues. So again, that's the 2 to 3 hours. We need the energy to carbohydrate, but we need to consume it far enough in advance so that we don't have pain in our stomach when we're exercising. And these meals should also be low in fat to avoid pains in our stomach or gastrointestinal issues. So after this main meal is consumed, small high glycemic index carbohydrate snacks can be consumed 30 to 60 minutes before exercise to top up energy levels. Weightlifters should also ensure that the water is consumed prior to exercise to hydrate. So again, that's the relationship between hydration levels and performance. And again, urine color can be used to determine hydration levels. During exercise, for our nutrient timing, weightlifters need to consume enough water. So again, 400 to 800 ml per hour, and this will depend on the clothing, the heat, body mass, and a range of other factors. This is the relationship between hydration and weightlifting performance is considered here. And then maintaining hydration levels is important for weightlifters, as dehydration can cause fatigue and reduce strength and cognitive function. So again, we're examining the relationship between dehydration and weightlifting and showing that it can cause fatigue and reduce our strength levels and our concentration, which would be important in weightlifting as the lifts are very technical. For nutrient timing, post-exercise, weightlifters need to ensure to consume a meal containing carbohydrate to replenish their energy levels for the next training competition. So again, if they train on a Monday, they need to replenish their carbohydrates for the next training session that may be coming in the following days, as glycogen will be broken down to provide energy for the weightlifting session. The meal should also contain high quality protein and ensure that it's lean for muscle recovery and repair. So again, we're examining the relationship there between consumption of protein post-exercise and recovery and performance in weightlifting. And a variety of vegetables should be included to provide important nutrients. If a meal is not available, a snack containing protein and carbohydrate should be consumed 30 to 60 minutes after training competition. So again, an additional point in there, no harm including it. And then restoring hydration levels is important for weightlifters. And 1.5 litres should be consumed for every kilo of body mass lost through sweat. So again, if you have a 100 kilo weightlifter and they lose 2 kg of body weight during training or competition, they will need to consume 1.5 litres of water to replenish the body mass lost through sweat. And then our last one, nutritional consideration, is our micronutrients. So micronutrients are an important consideration for a weightlifter, and examining the relationship between micronutrients and weightlifting performance, and that is to maintain the bodily functions. So vitamin D is important for a weightlifter. So consider, as it allows for the absorption of calcium in bones, and deficiency can cause muscle pain and weakness. So again, we have our sources of vitamin D included as well. Another mineral that's important for weightlifters to consider is calcium, as it helps with bone growth, maintenance and repair, and assists in muscle function by helping them to contract and relax, which is important for weightlifting. So weightlifting, the contraction and relaxation of muscles is extremely important for weightlifting performance. So again, we have our sources at the bottom, and another mineral for weightlifters to consider is magnesium, as it can help with muscle contraction, which is important. So in order to lift weights, our muscles need to contract or shorten. It reduces fatigue and muscle cramps and can aid performance and recovery. So we have our nuts, our seeds, and our seafood as our source. So again, another supplement question. So we were asked to name a supplement or name 2 supplements in the earlier part I of this question. So again, part I asks us to explain how one of the supplements can help optimize athlete performance. So another supplement we haven't mentioned so far is sodium bicarbonate, or baking soda. It can help optimize athlete performance by decreasing the acidity levels in muscles caused by the hydrogen ions during high intensity exercise, and allows for higher exercise intensities to be maintained during exercise. So again, we exercise at a high intensity and use the anaerobic glycolytic energy system. We use lactate or lactic acid as an energy source, but a byproduct of using this and using glucose as an energy source without oxygen is the production of hydrogen ions, which can lead to cramps or soreness in the muscle. So again, we're given a bit of detail, and we're also given reasons or causes as to why sodium bicarbonate can enhance performance in red. This would be beneficial for athletes in high intensity sports that rely on the anaerobic glycolytic energy system. So imagine, for example, 400-meter running. And we're given a bit more detail at the end. So 0.3 grams per kg body weight should be consumed 90 minutes pre-competition. But again, this should be trialed, as well as it can most definitely lead to gastrointestinal issues, especially if it hasn't been trialed before. So it's definitely one to trial pre-competition before using it in a big competition. Trial in training before using it in a big competition. And that is the end of our Saturday session. I hope it was helpful and useful. Thank you for listening and for taking part. And best of luck with your studies. Thanks very much.